Grayce, I think we are live.
I think we are, sir.
We were like 10 seconds, 20 seconds late. One of these days, we're going to hammer it right on time.
Yeah, it's like the start to a trail race. It's 7:30-ish.
Yeah. So this is episode 8. Let's make it great.
Boo!
I'm Eric, Idiot Runner Kosek.
And I'm Grayce, Hot Pants Langheim. Eric is all business in the front of the pack, and I am all about the party in the back.
That's right. Business up front and party in the back. Together, we are the Running Mullet.
And we are going to talk about every aspect of running, the podium to the DNF and everything in between.
If you are a runner, this show is for you. Now sit back, get out your foam roller, and enjoy the party.
Okay.
Good evening, my Grayce.
Look at my headphones. I have a mic. I have headphones. I don't know if I sound better. I hope I sound amazing.
You sound perfect.
And I rock rough and stuff with my Afro puffs now, so I'm pretty excited about that.
And you look like you're professional and you know what you're doing.
I do not. That's all fake. It's all fake.
Dude, this is second time we've talked to each other in 3 days. That's a record.
I love it. It's so much fun. It was great to see you in person for a little bit because we haven't seen each other in person since we started this podcast. We got to hang out at Hyner.
I know. I got a real hug. It was nice.
Yay. We had like 2 real hugs. It was awesome. Although I also got real hugs from Rhoda Smoker, and I got a picture of one of them, and I might frame it.
You probably should. That's it might be the only one you get from her now that you're talking about it like you're a weird, crazy lady.
I'm excited.
Did you make it home okay?
I did make it home okay. You know what? it was rainy at Heiner. It started raining not at the beginning of the race, so it was super humid at the beginning, as you know, and then started raining later on. And of course, a lot of people were cold and needed to get to warmth. And so they headed out. But I put on my rain jacket and I stayed for the DFL and shouted in the last runners. And then I drove home after.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome. I didn't realize you stayed to the end. That's great.
I did. I figure those are my people in the back of the pack. So I should probably stick around. But it was super fun. I love seeing the last few runners come across.
Nice. Before we jump into the Hyner talk, which I think that's what we're planning on doing tonight, and kind of a recap of Hyner and what happened and what your thoughts are, I want to real quick throw out I know we're getting crazy requests for like the Running Mullet swag and things like that. So what I want to ask are any viewers that are on right now, 24 some viewers that are on right now, is for us to do this show, there is some things that we have to pay for, right? So the question is, should we go the route of the Patreon thing where people donate their money, or should we do more of a swag thing and all proceeds will just go to helping the show? Now, I mean, for example, the postcards, the stickers, and a couple subscriptions that we have to do this show live and stuff, it all costs money. So I want to know what people's thought are. Would they rather have clothing or hats or go the other route in the future? We're not looking at this anytime soon. I'm just curious what direction they're leaning.
I love how collaborative you are, Eric. Every time you get an idea in your head, you just pop it out to the community to see what people think. That's awesome. So we'll be anxious to hear what people's thoughts are.
Well, the reason I do that, Grayce, is because if I don't say it right now, I'll forget it.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. But,
right?
And some other things we are, hope we have some new viewers. We are live on YouTube. You can post comments live and we can see them. Ooh. Some of them are coming in now.
Yeah, about time.
So love to see those comments, love to see the conversation along the way, and make this an interactive experience, but also understand those of you who are listening the next day. I hope you're listening on your run or on your ride. Maybe you're recovering still from Hyner. Let's did you want to talk a little? We have guests today. We have guests.
We do. That's crazy. This is going to be a crazy, whacked out show because we have guests. Hopefully it goes smooth.
I don't know how crazy it's going to be.
Well, I don't know. There's more people coming. I mean, normally it's just you and I in a quiet room, but now there's more people coming. We got to act normal.
No, we don't need to act normal. It'll be fine. We'll somehow entertain people. You can braid your beard again.
Right. Hey, so Grayce, when these people join us, are you going to be the one that pushes the button to join them in and all that?
Yeah, I can do that. And you're going to lead in our first person, right? So we have, and I'll give you a heads up what we did. So just let me back up a couple steps. Let me back on this train.
Beep, 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 beep.
Thank you for the sound effects.
Yep.
So this past weekend was the Hyner 25K and 50K in Pennsylvania, in Hyner, Pennsylvania. And Eric and I went live from the race. You can find that live episode on the YouTube site and YouTube channel, on the YouTube channel. And we went live for about 2 hours. We did get rained out. We were hoping to get back on, and it just didn't work out because we either had wind or we had rain, and electronic equipment doesn't love either. So we did shut it down after 2 hours. It is a great episode because you do get to hear for some pretty great voices, including the race director, Craig, who let us and our crazy selves air from his race for the first time. And we kind of said, Craig, we really don't know what we're doing, but we want to try it anyway. And he said, okay, you can be over here. And he again reached out to me today and just said thank you to us. And I was like, well, thank you, Craig. You're awesome. And also a big thanks to Laura, who helped us out getting everything set up and brought us pizza and brought me beer and generally is an awesome person and let me sleep in her tent the night before. So that's kind of the setup. Is we were at this race, the Hyner 25K and 50K, which is one of the biggest races, at least in Pennsylvania, if not the East Coast, where about 300 runners are led into the 50K and about 1,000 runners into the 25K. So it is a big, huge party before and after. And so we thought we would bring you some voices from that race, including somebody from the front and somebody from the back. And rather doing the traditional, we did get to interview the winner of the race, Ben, on Saturday during the live broadcast, but we're bringing you, and let me just preface this because I had to explain this a couple times. We call ourselves the Running Mullet because Eric is a front of the pack runner and he's business in the front. I am a back of the pack runner, if not DNF. And I bring the party in the back, just like a mullet. Business in the front, party in the back. So we're going to bring in voices from both, from the front and the back of the pack. We have a front runner who is a front runner who had a challenging day. So we thought we'd bring you that story because that's not always told. And we had, I'm not going to call her a back of pack runner, maybe a mid pack runner. Who had an awesome day. And we want you to hear that story, what it's like to come back from redemption after a DNF the year prior. So we're bringing you different types of stories from the front and the back of the pack today. Our first guest ever. I set it up, I think. Any questions, you throw them in the chat. But that's kind of the setup. That's what we did this past weekend. And now we're going to talk to some folks. And who are we going to talk to, Eric?
Well, why don't you go ahead and bring her on? Throw her on the old podcast so people can see her face.
I'm going to throw her up.
Hey, Mayuri Keely. Did I get that right?
You absolutely did.
Excellent. A quick introduction. Mayuri Keely. She started running 9 years ago. And Mayuri, you can correct me if I get any of this wrong. Made a goal of running a half marathon in every state, I guess, by the time she stops running. She's up to 16 now. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
2019, she turned to trails, which I think kind of all of us tend to start out. I don't know, maybe not all of us, but I took the same road. Literally same road. I started out on roads and then went to trails myself. 2019, she turned to trails and finished 350Ks during the pandemic. So kind of went all in, didn't look back. Let's see. Last year, she signed up for Hyner 50K and attempted that. Had a couple falls early on. The worst fall, you fell on your tailbone, correct?
I did. And I felt the impact to my head and I said, that's it. I'm calling it a day. I just couldn't mess with that. So
that's a really hard fall, to fall on basically on your backside and feel it all the way up through your spine into your head. I assume that's how it happened, right?
yeah, I think that's how it happened because the headache came on and it's like game over. Can't mess with it.
Wow. How did that happen? Did you slip somewhere on mud or what?
I think we were coming down, if I remember, at 50K, like after you do the third climb, after you do the water crossing, there's a big aid station, then you go on a climb. There is a steep climb down, and then you immediately climb back up. And we kept going after that. So that was the steep climb back up was the first time I slid down. And it could have been worse, but it was like a couple feet, climb back up. And then my brain was like, keep going, don't look back. So I did that. And then coming down on that hill or mountain, however you want to call that.
It's a mountain. It's a mountain.
Yeah, it's a mountain. I think I slipped on a rock and then that just kind of got me on my backside. And yeah, the impact was just,
wow.
It was crazy. Like instant headache came on. And that's when I knew it's like, okay, there's many more miles to go and you can't mess with it. And middle of all of that, the sweeper, Miss Tracy Williams, caught up to me. And this year, by the way, she ran her 50K. So she was racing this year.
Yes.
And congrats to her because she did amazing. She was out there killing it. So last year she caught up to me and I was like, Tracy, I don't want to see you this year. And she said, you won't because I'm running. So that was a really nice thing, that she was there when I fell and she was very helpful in getting me down by the next aid station.
Wow.
So how did you, from that fall and then you DNF'd, obviously, what were you like the following days? I mean, was there any side effects from it?
Yeah, I mean, physically, I think I was fine, but mentally I was kind of shaken up, right? First DNF, you don't really know what's going to happen after that. I was scared to go back out and run for a little bit until kind of felt okay. And even then, I think my confidence was shaken for a little while. And over the summertime, I just picked up other activities just to keep me in shape. But running was, it kind of dwindled a little bit. And then when I thought I was ready to go towards the end of the summer, I got COVID and that was it for running for a little while longer. And then I think it was December is when I really felt good and felt like, all right, I think I can tackle this one. So signed up for a few races along the way in spring. But this was the Hyner 25K was my highlight. And I did not care. I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna crawl, I'm gonna finish this thing because I am not missing it again this year. So I wanted to have.
Yeah,
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So a kind of odd fact of you is that you're afraid of heights, right?
I am afraid of heights. And yeah.
Now, what was it like going up to did you look at the view and does that bother you or is that not that bad?
It bothered me. I was shaking pretty good. And yeah, I think the key was, last year when I did this, obviously the first climb, you get up there and you don't really want to look back down because if you did, you're shaking. And so I saw this last year, right? So that wasn't new. this year we had an opportunity to go drive up there and just kind of chill and take a look at the view. So this time when I ran up there last year, we just at the wall, we just kind of went to the right. So you didn't run along the wall last year. This
Oh,
year, I think the 25K does along the wall, the 50K just keeps going. So I did along the wall, and oh my gosh, that was scary. And I had my poles and I was like hanging on by my dear life. I'm like, I don't want to fall here, not this early in the race. But it was fine. I mean, I think it's just kind of in your head, when you look down and you just don't want to look down.
right.
So
So how was it coming across the finish line, especially with your experience last year? Like, how amazing did you feel?
So it was like triumph. I think that's the word I used, right? It just felt so good to say, you know what, last year I didn't get there, and this was a redemption. And actually, the word that I used was, I am coming back for revenge. And
Yes.
that was the joke that went around. It's like it's a revenge race. I'm coming back. I'm gonna finish. It felt so good. But one thing I want to mention about mental toughness that builds with this was, with the fear of height, going through the SOB hill, oh my gosh. It
Yeah.
was like I didn't want to look back down. And at one point I did glance back and there were maybe about 6 or 7 people climbing behind me. And at one point I saw a tree. I'm like, I'm just gonna hug this for a second before we keep climbing, right? And at some
Yeah.
point, like you had to just tune in to that like mental game so much. You just didn't want to think about anything. You didn't want to say anything. You just wanted to think about that next step. How are you going to hang on to that next rock? It sounds
Yeah.
so silly if you've done SOB hill so many times. I have not. That was my first time going through that hill.
Oh, that's
And
true. Yeah.
it was scary. I mean, it was scary. And I just like, I did look down afterwards, but yeah, that was, I think I can do it again. We'll see. We will see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it just like first time, with fear of heights, you just had to tune in that mental game so much that you didn't want to give yourself an opportunity to make a mistake.
Oh boy. Yeah. And we have some great comments coming in. I know PJ had said someone passed him while he was on the wall. That would be scary. And
Cool.
another person just came in to ask, did you use poles during this time? But tell us a little bit about your strategy. Did you use poles? Did you eat? Did you drink? How'd that go?
So I tried to use the poles and I had to quickly collapse them because they weren't working. Like it kept slipping. So I think I went maybe like 10 feet up and I'm like, okay, the poles aren't going to work here. Um, so I just started crawling on my hands and feet and it's like, I just felt like a monkey going up a tree, right? It's like you're just kind of going up. You just had to use whatever was on your hand. Yeah, I mean, the strategy was to use the poles and try to climb back up like that. It didn't work, so you just had to improvise on the spot. Um, as far as food, I mean, I ate what was at the aid station. I thought I was going to keep up with eating. I kept forgetting to eat. And then every couple miles, I was running with a running buddy, Bobby Sue Johnson. And she would remind me, or I would remind her. And like, then we would eat. So I think I was okay energy wise, but I think that it just, you forget. And I think it was mile 4. I took an ankle twist and that's when I started forgetting things. I'm like, okay, I'm focusing on my ankle. I know I can't really put a whole lot of pressure on. So really trying to tune that in. I kept forgetting to eat, but I had somebody nudging me, so that helped.
Ah, man, that's great. And so you had somebody nudging you, and I want to ask a little bit about this because you are a member of the Badass Lady Gang, right?
I was, and I will be, I think.
So tell us a little bit about what that is, because for a future episode, I want to talk about some of the great running clubs that exist out here. I'm wearing my shirt from the York Ridge Runners, had many finishers representing from the York Ridge Runners community. And you are a member of the Badass Lady Gang, and I know several of those awesome, awesome runners. And so tell us a little bit about that group and how they supported your recovery and your revenge.
Yep. So I think it started with Leanne.
Probably.
That's how I got into it. So I feel like compared to all the things that Leanne does, and there's few other ladies who just kind of go out and get that done, right? I feel like a newbie to that. But the idea is you just go and challenge yourself and be better than yesterday. That's the thing that pops up every day here. So it's that's the concept, right? You just go at something that challenges you, and if that's the idea. That's the idea of that as leading. And by the way, it would be awesome to be on your show with the entire gang here.
Oh, that sounds so much fun. Yeah, and that's Leanne Martinez, awesome, awesome lady, and that would sounds like a lot of fun. Have the whole gang. We'll have to have a party episode.
Yeah, let's do that. Love to have that. Yeah, I mean, as far as recovery, I got messages from that group like constantly, right? Like leading up to it, the day before, the night before, even going into the race, there were just constant encouraging messages that came through. I think there were some that came through during, but I was trying not to look at my phone because it kept messing up with my music. So I didn't want to look at my phone. But then I saw a bunch of messages come in afterwards, and what love that you get. No matter how small thing that you think you're doing, it's bigger for somebody else. And it might seem, I mean, look, when the 50K runners kept passing me on the hill before SOB, I anything that was built up, like I feel like a tough runner after going through 2 hills. I think I can do it. And those guys just come in and they are running like they just woke up with all this energy and they just keep climbing. And, you feel like you're not doing enough, but to somebody else, you're doing a lot more and you're taking on that challenge a lot more. And you just don't realize because you keep comparing or you keep seeing something else that you want to achieve. So I think that for me, that was a moment to pause to say, you know what? Yes, they did go past. It was a lot of fun to cheer them on, but you still have a lot of fight left in you that you need to climb that SOB hill. And that was the most dreaded thing that I just was not looking forward to. And at one point, like we were coming down and somebody said, hey, look at that mountain. That's where the SOB hill is. And the words that came out of my mouth, I don't know if I want to say it here, but just say that it kind of rhymed with Father Trucker. And people started laughing. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to think about that hill right now. So,
yeah. Like you said, it's one step at a time. So I love that message. Like, no matter what you're doing, whatever small step you're taking, there's always somebody else out there who you're inspiring. And I think that, your story of DNFing and then going through that and then going through COVID, like it can inspire both the front and the back of the pack. That's the cool thing. So what advice do you have out there to other people who may have gone through a DNF this past weekend? There's some DNFs out there. So what advice do you give to those people who go through those tough times?
Yeah, honestly, I will say let it fuel your motivation. Don't let it deflate you down, right? And that's what I took away. And look, I recently went through a challenge in a different setting than running, and that challenge I did not overcome. And I kept saying in running, what you learn there is what you're going to apply here. So when one door closes, 10 others open, you just have to keep your eyes open. And I think that's how this Hyner thing went for me was I said, I'm not coming back here. I said, no effing way. I'm doing this again. I'm not coming back here. And a month later, the registration opens and I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this revenge race. So I'm just saying, fuel your motivation through some of those challenges that you didn't overcome.
Yeah.
All right. I gotta be that guy because it's me. All right. You got your revenge. You got your revenge on Heiner. You did amazing. You're happy. The smile says it all. Is the 50K in your future again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, it may not be next year, it may be a year after that. I think that when I left that mountain, I said, I'm not coming back. See you later, kind of thing. Last couple of days, I've really given it a thought, and I'm not gonna say no. I think there will be something. I just don't want to rule that out. So it'll
Mhm.
happen. It may
Yeah.
not happen right away.
Nice. Excellent. That was the answer I wanted to hear. And going back to you were talking about how the 50Kers were passing you and you're just amazed and this and that. And it comes back to, it's hard not to compare ourselves to other people. But the biggest thing we got to remember is we're all doing, Hyner together. And obviously we're going to compare ourselves to the others that are doing that event. But what we really should be comparing ourselves to are all the other people that aren't doing this crazy shit. Right? Because
Eric, that's why we are called idiot runners, right?
that's right.
There we go.
And
That's it.
it's certainly not because we're idiots, right? Anybody who's a true idiot runner truly knows the meaning of the term. And I hope more and more truly get it and that it's not offensive. It's the exact opposite of that. But it's
Yep.
not just idiot runners. It's all of us as a whole, whether you think you are an idiot runner or not. You can't compare yourself to others in the field. You compare yourself to the population and you're instantly a superstar among superstars. Right?
I like that. I like that thinking.
Yeah. It's the truth. It really is. So
So
incredible
what do you
job.
have? What do you have next on your calendar? What's up? What's happening next?
I think right now, look, since last year, I put on a little bit of poundage here and there. So this summer, the game is to put on some strength training in my calendar, and
Mhm.
I really want to think through what I'm gonna do in fall and take my time doing that because I don't know if it's gonna be a marathon, if it's gonna be a 50K, it might just be a really tough half marathon. Um,
Mhm.
I so I haven't thought about it yet, but it'll come.
One
But
thing
right
at a
now
time.
I'm focused on just building up that muscle a little bit and getting healthier again.
That's great to hear. Well, we wish you the best of luck throughout the rest of the year. I mean, now you can kind of kick back and you had a successful year, You can do whatever you want the rest of this time.
Yep, that is the plan. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks so much.
Mayuri, you're more than welcome to hang out right where you're at, and we'll leave you on. Or if you want to check out, that's totally fine too. Not going to hurt our feelings either way. We're just going to talk to another guest and go from there.
Hey, I want to hear their stories, so I'm gonna hang on here.
Excellent.
Awesome. All right. So I am going to introduce our next guest because he used to be my neighbor. We lived three houses away from each other, and we didn't know it for the longest time. Coming for the first time to a podcast. I don't know how we're the first podcast to have
I
this
don't
guy
know, but
on.
that's huge. We should be like paying him or something.
We should be. I don't know. This is awesome. So we're going to have Andrew Simpson on. If you don't know about Andrew Simpson, this guy has several wins behind him. He's absolutely at the front of the pack. World's End 100K, Oil Creek 100 miler. I listed them and then I put my notes somewhere and I don't know where they are now because I was paying attention to Mayuri. And there it is. Virgil Crest 100 miler, Sharp Top 50K, Twisted Ranch 100K, Finger Lakes 50 miler, 12th place at JFK, which is an incredibly competitive race. And so all of those wins, plus more wins.
Add them on already. Add them on.
Hold on. So we're talking about Hyner though. So Hyner, he's placed third place once and second place 3 times. He's had 3 second place finishes. And man, I was rooting for Andrew. I was like, this is his year. this was not Andrew's year. So he's coming on from the front of the pack to talk about his experience, because sometimes it doesn't always go the way that you want. And we want to hear about those stories too, and about what he has coming up next. So we're bringing on Andrew Simpson.
Hi, Grayce. That was quite an introduction. Thanks. Too much.
Yeah. The wins, and then also the second places. Anybody who's your experience at Heiner calls you the bridesmaid of Heiner. 3 second place finishes and a third place, and then you tackled it against this year. So tell us a little bit about how your day went, all the highs and the lows.
As you kind of outlined, Heiner's been a tough one for me. It's just one, up until this year, I never had a bad day, but I never had a great day. And it just kind of always slipped through my fingers late. So obviously with my history, I was hoping to win. Didn't happen. I was far from it. First off, I'd like to congratulate Ben Linney for the win. He's my number one training partner. So, it was awesome to see someone I run with all the time, actually hit their potential. So this year, Reagan took it out really fast. He ultimately finished second. I think our first mile, Ben and I were kind of chasing him. We split a 5:45. And he was ahead of us. So that shows how fast Reagan took it out of the gates at Hyner in a 50K. So Ben and I just kind of looked at each other and we're like, all right, I guess this is what we're doing, with how ultras are anymore, you can't really let people go. It's no longer in a competitive race. It's no longer a sport where you can hang out and expect to, storm back late and still win the thing. So we both went, and up Humble Hill. I'm not as good at climbing as either of them, so I kind of let them go. But I was keeping them within sight, and then you hit the ridge along the top, and I was feeling not great, but I'm like, you just climbed 1,000 feet. Maybe your legs will come around. So, I just kept moving, just focusing on, hitting the splits I needed to, still not feeling good. Get to the long downhill into Hyner run. Downhill is my strength. I'm like, okay, I'll make up some time here. Still didn't feel great, but I was moving okay. So there weren't any major red flags at this point. I got to Hyner run and I saw Ben and Reagan in that, the long, open, kind of grassy section at Hyner Run there near the aid station, which I think is mile 8 or so. So I knew I was still in it, but I didn't feel like it was going to necessarily be a special day. I felt like I was really just low energy. My legs felt fine. I just didn't have energy to push, and I still don't know why. Which, it just is what it is. And then you climb up Donut Hole to start that kind of lollipop section. And I don't know, my mind just went into outer space. And I think I split like a 13-minute mile. And I knew, which is okay, but I knew that those guys were splitting faster. Like I know them both pretty well. And I knew they were putting a gap on me. And then it wasn't too long before, I got passed by, I think, Brian, who ended up finishing third. He passed me not too long after that. And I was just really low energy, just really kind of bunking. And it was, at this point, an hour and 20 minutes in. So it wasn't really something that, wouldn't have been nutrition related or anything like that. I didn't feel right. And it was kind of frustrating. So I just, kept moving, kept getting past. I was going slow. And I remember at one point, right before you kind of loop back on that lollipop on the out and back section, I literally I'm obviously a competitive person. I was so frustrated. I literally had tears in my eyes because I was so angry. I was just like, I was like, my legs don't feel that bad. I'm taking in calories, I'm drinking, why is my body not moving faster? I had no answers at that point. I was trying to be patient, I was trying to be smart, I was troubleshooting, and just pretty much everything everything I threw at the wall didn't stick, and which is just how it goes in ultras sometimes, which is why I love it at the end of the day. And then so I just continued to bonk until you get to Hyner run again right before the SOB climb, and at that point I'm just like, I don't even care. Basically, was my mindset. I sat down on the bench there, which is like I've done that in like 100-milers, but not not in a 50K. And I sat down. My wife and kids were there, and I'm just kind of like, I just want to like sit here and talk to you. And my wife's the ultimate crew member. She's like, no, you need to get out of here. And luckily, Eric Wolfgang, who's another local York runner, came up. He was having a rough time too, and he was like, come on, let's go. So we kind of moseyed out of there and went up SOB together. And then I got a second wind at the top of SOB, but it was 25 miles too late. And then I finished it out. I was in a decent enough headspace. I felt like I kept moving. I tried to be as happy as possible given the circumstances. I guess what would sum up my race would be, I was walking up one of the early parts of SOB with Eric, and I was like, I need to sit down. Like, I have no energy. I sat on the side of the trail, and I literally sat in like a patch of burrs. So I'm just pulling burrs out of my butt for the entirety of the SOB climb. Like that was basically Hyner in a nutshell for me. I mean, I reacted like crazy bad to it. I'm like, I have a huge, on my back's all swollen from it. But it was just like, the icing on the cake. That's how it's just not your day, and you just gotta kind of accept it. But that was pretty much it.
Sometimes you just gotta accept the burrs in the butt. That's what you gotta accept.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Can I ask a question?
So, Eric.
All right. So
Absolutely.
I can't believe I'm going to say this because I don't watch podcasts, but I was listening to a podcast this week, and it was a very intriguing one. And they were talking about, I mean, if anybody that knows you knows that physically you train hard, you were ready for these events. You do everything right from what I see in your training, of your running training. But this podcast was more about going into an ultra or any race for that matter, and not knowing that mental stressors are going to affect your race, your physical race. So basically, the guy that was talking had his day sounded so identical to yours. It's amazing. That's why I'm bringing it up. But the only thing that the answer that he could find at the end of the day, several days later, weeks later, months later, was the things that were going on in his life leading up to the race a couple weeks in advance. And it wasn't big stuff, but it was stress. It stressed him out more than normal, to where that's the only thing he deduced gave him this horrible run. I mean, he was primed, ready to go, and he fell apart early, and he didn't know why, and he struggled the whole race trying to figure out why. And I'm not looking to dig into your private life.
I was going to say, you're doing a therapy session, Eric.
No, but it really made me think when I listened to this podcast. But it's like, boy, I never really focus on that much. We try to get enough sleep and all that. But bottom line is, I think we all have stresses in our life, and aren't there mentally 100% all the time. Do you feel like that could even be a slight chance?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so to some extent. I hesitate to use it as a huge excuse because I know everyone has those. I mean, our whole family was sick, 2 weeks ago, I guess, about a strep throat that we all shared over Easter weekend. And I was on an antibiotic, but I felt physically great prior to Hyner. I just gotten off my antibiotic, so I wasn't even on it anymore. I thought I was good to go. Actually, last year at Hyner, one of my second place years, I was very sick on race day. Like, I didn't feel good at all, and I had a pretty good day. So I just try to put those stressors out of my mind. And I mean, how it goes, Eric, with a full-time job and 2 kids. We're in a similar situation. Your kids are
Mhm.
older than mine, but it's sleep. I'm not getting the ideal amount of sleep. If we were pro runners, we would be getting 8-9 hours a day, and then maybe even a nap after our hard workouts. That's not reality for the vast majority of people. So I try to put those stressors out of my mind. I mean, I always think that it's possible, to answer your question, I guess, in a nutshell, but I try not to overthink it, just because it's almost uncontrollable.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is a lot, but I don't know. It's amazing how much your story, what you pretty much explained the whole podcast that I just listened to this week.
Well,
just made
and
me-
it happens. It happens to many people, right? So, so
It
it's
does.
a great story of how it happens in the front, it happens in the middle, it happens in the back, and sometimes you got to just take the burrs out of your butt and then grab a. Mayuri was talking about how she went up through SOB and just grabbed onto a tree for a little bit, and
I've been there. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Andrew, when you go out, you said you went out hard, and let's call it the first miles across that bridge flat, so you can put down some fast paces if you have the legs to do it. You basically said you tucked in and were holding on to Reagan at that point. My question to you, and because I struggle with this myself as towards the front of the packer, but I think it goes for everybody, is when do you decide to run somebody else's race or your own race? And I find it really hard.
Yeah. It is really hard. And I think I'm kind of variable with it depending on distance. 100K and above, I tend to just do my thing. Like I did Bandera 100K in Texas, which is the Western States Golden Ticket race. That was in January. And that one, people went out hot and I just did my thing. And it ended up being an okay day. Whereas I feel like at Hyner, it's gotten to the point where at least all of the 5 times I've done it, if you're not in the group of 3 to the view first, the winners, you're not winning. The winner has come from that 3 every single time I've done it. So I feel like, I mean, so I wanted to keep them within touching distance, but I did let them go a little bit. They weren't in sight until Hyner run after the view. I saw them, up the view, and then they put a pretty big gap in me on the ridge section, and then I reeled them in a little bit, I think, on the downhill. So I think it also has to do with how well you know who you're racing. I know I run with Ben all the time, and I'm pretty close with Reagan too. I'm actually pacing him at World's End in a month or a couple months, I guess. So yeah, I know both those guys pretty well. I know their strengths, know what might like favor me. So that factors in too. So I try to be flexible. I don't go in with like a rigid plan on race day. I kind of go based on feel. And I didn't feel great, so I did let them go a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, and so
it's a struggle though. It's a struggle.
And Ben won. Didn't Ben win last year too?
No, so actually Jared Burdick, that was the thing. Yeah. Ben and I trained together all the time. And the past 2 years I got second and he got third.
Okay.
So we were saying this year, we're like, all right, we need to get first and second this year. Like, this is getting ridiculous. And I'm glad he held up his end of the bargain. I did not at all. But yeah, I think I ended up like 10th or something like that this year. So yeah, but yeah, I was thrilled to see him have a good day.
Yeah, and this question came into the chat, and I think the answer is yes. Just because I was watching the race that I was watching the most closely was the men's 50K race, because it was just a lot of names with very similar strengths. So PJ had said, do you have a feel for who your competition will be at these events?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking Ben and Reagan, which I guess was correct because they got first and second. But at Hyner, it's such a huge race anymore that unknowns pop up. Like for instance, in 2018, when Wesley Atkinson won. That was his first win. I mean, he obviously ended up, tearing up the course record at World's End and Eastern States with just phenomenal times. But that was his first win. I remember we were running up there and we're like, who is this kid? I think he was like 18 or 19 at that point. We had no idea who he was. So I mean, you can't discount anyone, because anyone can show up and have their arrival, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I'm a Strava snooper or an ultra sign up stalker.
You do?
I do. I mean, I liken it to you wouldn't go into the Super Bowl or something without knowing your opponent. You want to know what their strengths and weaknesses are, how they like to race. Are they aggressive? Are they going to, sit on your back and just ride your pace, or like, what are they going to do? So yeah, I like to know.
So do I. It's so much fun to watch and to watch the front of the pack, and to also watch all my friends who I know are going after big goals or revenge runs or whatever those are. And a race like this is so fun because there's so many people are in it. Kip had asked, do you have any specific workouts designed for Hyner?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, because I feel like I've never quite nailed it. So, I mean, Grayce, you're familiar with our terrain around here, especially my old terrain, since I used to live really near you. We would literally train on the same roads. So, I mean, this year I did more vert than ever, and I had a bad day. I don't know if it was my training or what, but basically around here, we're looking at, I think our biggest climb around here is 600 feet, and there are two of them, and that's over at like Helm Hills Nature Preserve on the Susquehanna River, and that's about as much as we get. So it's hard to train properly for Hyner. I feel like maybe really the best way for us for Hyner is just speed work. Ben did a ton of speed work. He did a lot less vert than me. He's naturally faster than me. He was a sub 15 guy in the 5K in college, so he has leg turnover that I don't have. But yeah, he was just hammering speed intervals. One of my just go-to workouts in general is kind of like a hilly road workout of 3 by 20 minute steady state. So I don't know, that's like what, 85% effort roughly for that 20 minutes, and then on quarter rest, and like toss that in the middle of a 20-mile long run where you're running the rest maybe faster and easy at least. So that's just that kind of stuff, steady state long stuff, just getting your legs turning over, because Hyner really is a runnable course. It's not if you feel good, it's runnable. It's not overly technical by Pennsylvania standards, I don't think.
See, that's what I say.
Yeah, it's not. I like World's End is far more technical, or anything we have locally along the river here blows both those out of the water in terms of technicality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you feel that I heard a lot just as a spectator on Saturday. I couldn't believe how many people were coming in complaining of the humidity and cramping, and like a lot of people. Do you think that played any part of the way you felt or not?
Yeah, I mean, historically, I've had some decent races, like most notably the Twisted Branch one that Grayce mentioned in the intro, where I ran well in the heat, but in general, it's a struggle for me. I did not cramp at all, which is the first Hyner I did not cramp at all. I've always cramped at Hyner. So it could have been the humidity, but it didn't lead to cramping. If anything, it just led to no energy. It's possible. I mean, I'm someone who sweats heavy. I need to watch my salt and water intake in any race that's even the slightest bit warm. So yeah, long story short, yeah, I mean, it certainly may have factored in, but not in terms of cramps.
Yeah. So
Andrew, sorry, Grayce. Andrew, I've looked up to you for a long time. It's probably like 5 years now. I always tell people, and I keep saying this, but don't compare yourself to other people. There's always different levels, right? So like I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, but I'm also very confident in saying that there's at least 2 or 3 levels of fitness, of skill, of running ability above me. And I won't get to that level. I can do the best I can. And I like training. I like getting better, but I know there's always different levels. So all I can tell, I'm not trying to pump you up or anything, but just know, and I think I've said this to you before, just know that there's people that, I mean, you're as close to elite without being elite in my eyes as a runner can get. Where you're at. Yeah, I know you're disappointed with 3 second place finishes at Hyner, but listen to me say that. You got 3 second place finishes at Hyner, so it's hard. I know it's hard to swallow probably for yourself. I get it. I'm a competitive runner too, but man, like there's always going to be, where do you draw the line of there's always somebody better than me. And I just can't, maybe it's just not in the cards for Hyner. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Actually, I mean, I'd been talking about this with my wife and some of my closer friends. This at least is my last time. I'm not doing it next year. Yeah, I'm trying to just do other things. I'm at peace with it. I had a bad day, and
right.
Whether I was going to go out with a win or go out with a complete whimper like I did it just is what it is. I need to step away from it for a year at least. I feel like it's almost been like an unhealthy obsession of like just chasing a win, which is not like really the reason why I want to do this sport. Like there are other reasons. So, and there are so many races out there anymore. And Heiner's great. This is no critique at Hyner, and I love seeing all the people up there and all of that. But yeah, no, totally. There is a time and a place. Just be like, like I gave it, at least 4 really solid goes, and it didn't quite end up the way I wanted, but they were still good runs. I mean, I was beaten by really good people. So it is what it is. So yeah, no, totally. There's always someone better than you. Which, like, as Grayce said, I got 12th twice at JFK. And I mean, I mean, those kind of races and Bandera really, and Western states put things in perspective of like, like no matter how hard you work, there's a limit to this, for sure. So just based on what kind of talent you're given.
And when I first saw you like beelining to the car, and then I saw you later on. You were in pretty good spirits.
Yeah, sorry, I was in a bad mood. Fine. Sorry, I was like right after the finish.
Yeah, but you shook it off pretty quick. And when I saw you the second time, you were kind of hopping around and saying, "My legs feel great." So tell us about that mindset switch. How do you put yourself in such a good mood after that?
I mean, I'm someone who I think most people think I'm pretty mild, but in the realm of competition, I kind of transform, I guess. So yeah, like immediately after the finish, it was still pretty fresh. But then, it's time to stop acting like a child and have some fun with some people, right? It's a good trail running reunion at Hyner. It's no time to sulk. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm someone who, since I felt okay on Sunday, I ran a couple more hours, a hilly road route around here.
Nice.
As far as I was concerned, it was a bad day, but I have a 100-miler coming end of June, and since I was okay, it was time to start training. It was earlier than I was anticipating being able to run after Hyner, but yeah, I'm someone with wins or losses. I tend to turn the page quickly. I don't really linger on it. I'm on to the next thing, on to the next challenge, whatever that is.
Yeah. Like Mayuri had a DNF last year, and she finished this year, and so awesome. She called this her revenge race. So tell us about your next 100. Where are you headed?
Black Hills 100 out in South Dakota. As far as I know, it's a really low key 100, but we were going to vacation there as a family last year, but I got in the Western States in the lottery, so I did that, obviously. So yeah, we pushed it back to this year. I saw there was a 100-miler out there in the summer, and kind of fitting it into our vacation plans, which I've never really, gone on vacation and run 100 before. It's usually been like the focus was the 100. So that'll be a change, but yeah, I'm I'm looking forward to just, it's like the opposite of Hyner, right? I think there are like 85 people signed up right now for the whole thing. And I'm looking for an adventure in somewhere I've never been, you know, in a beautiful area. So yeah, that's what's next for me.
Fabulous. All right. Well, we had some great stories from both the front and the middle of the pack, with both of you having some awesome fun and awesome days. So I appreciate both of you coming on. And Eric, do you want to wrap up with any other questions for these two?
No, I think we hit the nail on the head for our first two guests of our show, though. Phenomenal. Best show yet by far. Come on.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. And honestly, this was a lot of pressure, by the way, bringing somebody on a first time on the gas. I hope we did well for you.
Yeah,
you did beyond well. You did better than I do. Grayce is going to cut me off from here on out.
Yeah, he raises his hand.
You off. You own it. You own it. He can't cut you off.
No, we really appreciate you guys taking your time out, and much respect to both of you for what you both do. And like I said, that's the whole point of this show, is we're all here for one big reason, and that's just to run, you know, just run.
And it's such a cool sport in that we all get to run the same races together and see the same experiences and climb up the same SOB hill and and make our way through the finish line. And both of you did. Congratulations on your finishes. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We will be back again next week, Mondays at 7:30. You can catch us on YouTube. You can also check us on all of the podcasts. And Eric will probably feverishly be messaging me all this week about whether we should do swag or something of the sort, or what's the other thing? Patreon.
Well, the only other thing I was thinking about to end the show on this is, and I want everybody else to think about this too, the problem with something like shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies and things like that is we have to order sizes, and we're not in a spot where we can have a ton of inventory. So it's something to think about. That's all.
You have a whole shed.
Whatever. That's for the idiots.
It's a shed. It's a shed.
All right. Hopefully next week we are going to dive deep into FKTs, since that's like 2 weeks behind. That's our plan, but maybe that'll change. But anyway, thank you so much, guys and gals, for coming on. We appreciate you very much, and we will talk to everybody next week.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.